Coming up in this video, what is a mediumship circle? This is part of our mediumship development training. What is a mediumship development circle?
Are they crazy, wild seances to the dead?
Are they created to conjure up full body apparitions? In this video, we're going to go from the old school to the new school and make things so much easier and show you why mediumship circles can be even more powerful now.
While that's going to be entertaining with some free juicy information, we do have an offer at the end to take your metaphysical business from basic to bodacious, but only if it works for you.
It is time to tag up. For all of our Zen heads in Zen Ed Academy, let us know that you are here with a hashtag Zen Head for Life.
If you're watching live, give us a hashtag live tag.
And if you're watching on the replay, hashtag replay fam.
That was very large today.
It was.
If you are just getting to know us, I'm Heather.
And I'm David.
I'm ZenWestGarden.com. Also because it's the beginning of October, which is our favorite month. Neither of our birthdays are in October.
Nope. Why is it special, you ask? I heard you ask. I heard somebody ask.
Well, it's our anniversary, October 30th, which is Devil's Night. And Halloween is kind of like our anniversary weekend. It's
when the veil is thinnest.
Ooh, and a lot of good stuff. I just love October. It's the beginning of the holidays. It's Halloween. It's fun. Okay.
When the veil is thinnest, we happen to find each other.
It's true.
Just saying. It's pretty awesome. So speaking of Halloween and magic.
So when I talk about Harry Houdini, we're going to talk about mediumship circles today. And I want to kick it off with Harry Houdini, I was fascinated with him as a kid. He died on Halloween.
Boom. October 31st, 1926.
He was 52 years old. And you always see in the movies him dying in that final performance because he was unable to do the final escape. Well, that makes great TV, right?
Absolutely. But what really happened was that he had appendicitis for a couple weeks, didn't go to the doctor, being all manly, did his final show on October 24th with a fever of 102 after challenging a friend to punch him in the stomach to show how fit he was.
And
it's a weird thing that guys do.
You guys do that. You guys kind of regress to like 14 years old, even though, you have, whatever. So anyway, the show must go on because he was an entertainer. He did the show in ridiculous pain, aggravated everything, and died in the hospital a few days later. And he died on Halloween.
Right. So Harry and his wife, Bess, agreed that if he could communicate with her after death, he would. They even had a secret code. Rosabelle Believe. The code itself had to be given by a medium in order for it to be authentic. That was their agreement.
So they had really strict parameters about what the message would be.
Right.
And so for 10 years, Bess attended seances in hopes of getting that specific message. And she finally gave up 10 years later and said, 10 years is long enough to wait for one man.
So maybe if she just believed longer.
Well, I have a sort of half theory, and maybe Houdini just kind of wanted her to let go and move on. So he never showed up because he was like, if I give you messages, then you're going to be holding on to me and you need to move on.
You need to go out and live. So, live your life, woman, live your life.
Interesting. But the thing is, Houdini was always on a search to he would go in disguise to different mediums in the spiritualist era
and call out the frauds.
He would prove how they were doing it wrong. So he was kind of always on a search for the
truth.
Authentic. Yeah. But he also wanted to disprove the ones that were taking the public. And he and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the author of Sherlock Holmes, were actually friends, if you didn't know. And he was actually a very active spiritualist in his later years. And all his books about Sherlock Holmes was always disproving fraudulent stuff. So they were both in this kind of
disproving of the fraudulent. So
looking for the truth.
Taking the audience, what Heather is referring to is basically being conned.
Right.
So all of the con artists out there that were conning the audience using fake tricks and fakery, that's what he wanted to disprove.
Well, because Houdini understood how to do it. So, so if you are a student of mediumship, you know that there is more than one way to get evidence or proof of identity from a loved one, other than I have to have this specific message. Right. You're kind of creating a very small parameter to connect. And the methods have definitely improved since the time of Houdini among serious mediums, especially because the time of Houdini was kind of the birth of people developing systems of mediumship in our modern day.
Right. And to this day, people still hold Halloween Houdini seances to raise the spirit of Houdini, or maybe they're still looking for Rosabelle.
Yeah, so Rosabelle is a song. It's not a person. A lot of people think Rosabelle's a person, like was it his mistress or what? I know it was a song. It was their favorite song together. So it's really cool. I want to attend an official Houdini seance on Halloween because there's a lot of different ones, but there's one big official one that like the National Guild of Magicians puts on every Halloween, and they have magic acts and all kinds of stuff.
One day we're actually going to do that.
Yeah.
For Halloween, for our anniversary, we're going to go and search out and join this crazy Houdini seance.
I think it'll be fun. So.
Anyway, now it's time. Now it's time for the good stuff. Now it's time for the good stuff. And here we go.
That's our intro music. We're live.
Because we're live.
And it's free.
And it's free.
It's copyright free. So let's get into it. Tip number 1, old school forms. Let's kind of build a little base of foundation about what a mediumship circle is.
Take it back to the old school.
Yeah. So a mediumship circle traditionally is where you get together to develop or unfold your mediumship with a group of other aspiring mediums or different levels of development.
Right. This is different from getting a reading or attending a platform performance, right? So platform performance is when you're up, and you guys have all seen it. Teresa Caputo has done them. You've got the other guy and the other guy, they've done them.
You know what we're talking about.
What we're talking about. Anyway.
Most styles of mediumship you are going to see on YouTube and social media are influenced in some way by the spiritualist traditions of the 1800s that were started around the time of Houdini when he was, in his full whatever.
In his prime, right. So even though the spiritualist movement started in New York, US of A, it took off like wildfire in England, which is why you see so many really great British spiritualist mediums today.
So spiritualist churches sprung up like crazy out of the spiritualist movement that started in New York. So it had, and it still has, a base of religion along with it, along with an established process for messaging. There's a lot of other forms of mediumship and how you can use them in your real world life, but they were really focused on messaging. So in the old school, you see a couple of different forms of mediumship circles. And I kind of want to clarify the difference between what it is. Okay, so you see those with real intent where development circles are. Okay, so mediumship development circle is a mediumship circle where mediums are getting together, working towards real skills. Okay.
And then we've got seances, which are mediumship circles with civilians.
So basically seances. So you've got, those are the two sort of old school traditional forms of mediumship circles, the development circle and then the seance circle, where you'd have mostly civilians, one established medium or, amateur pro that led that circle. And that was, the purpose was for messaging and phenomena with civilians. Okay.
So then you've got seances or big, huge public performances with con artists who are preying on the grief of others for profit.
And that's kind of like the old school, the 1800s. Well, you have it still today, but they're a lot easier to spot. So you had back in the old school, you had those two different kinds of authentic mediumship and the two different kinds of fraudulent, which is like the seance with the civilians, but it was more of a setup kind of thing. And then you had the big public performances where they create all these elaborate shows pretending to be mediumship.
Right, the fake platform.
What they were missing was the real legit development circle. So those were the ones that Houdini would go in disguise and go sit in on and just kind of look
spot
behind the curtain
because
it was his craft. He knew what to look for.
Yeah. Moving on to tip number 2.
Let's keep rocking in the free world.
Old school rules.
So here's the fun part. I want to break it down because a lot of times we don't realize like how restrictive it was in the beginning. So in the 1800s, when the Syria,
which is the 19th century
Right.
Just to let you know.
If you didn't know that. In the 1800s, when the serious spiritualist mediums were developing methods and experimenting, in the beginning, they were pretty strict about rules. It was the Victorian era, after all, where rules were everything.
And
right?
if you didn't follow the rules, you were a pariah.
That's
anyway,
right.
This actually was not a bad
Right.
thing. And it was, at the time, the right thing to do, because when you were exploring new territory, right, and deciding to map out new guidelines and new systems for something, you've got to start with a dependable structure until you get a foundation, until you build the footing. Then you can push the edges by bending the structure and seeing if the underlying function still applies in different parameters. That's what is still going on as the tradition continues.
So some of the rules for the old school traditional development circle are kind of fun. And some people still try to follow them. There's nothing wrong with that. But we've already kind of moved past that.
Right.
So in our time frame. So some of the rules were like, you meet at the exact same time.
Actually, what they would do is, if you did not make it on time, you would be locked out from the circle so that you wouldn't disturb the circle in practice.
Right. Well, you should be on time, kids. You should try to
that. But the Victorian era especially.
Yeah.
Nope. Sorry, we're going to lock the door. You didn't make it.
You're done.
Your horse and carriage didn't make it on time. Sorry.
So basically, the rules were kind of, this is kind of a basic idea, is you meet at the same time, you meet at the same place, the same day.
Same bat channel.
You would be seated alternating male and female, with the strongest mediums placed at key positions to amplify the energy of the other people that might be still learning.
So this was a way to create a human group battery, right? To provide energy for spirit communication and phenomena.
So the lights were a certain way, consistency was everything. And basically they were setting up a controlled laboratory environment that was predictable in order for the experiments to be documented and patterns to be observed.
So spiritualist mediums were really the first parapsychologists, right? So parapsychologists try to figure out and understand guiding rules from the same phenomena.
They just don't apply as much religious construct underneath it. Like the spiritualist mediums, they had like a prayer to say at the beginning. They had very strict guidelines that were like to keep it in the area of the light, right?
Yes.
So the parapsychologists don't apply so much the religious construct. They're just looking for the scientific reasons for the mystic phenomena, but they're still, keeping that magic. It's more matter of fact, how does it work and how does it function?
Absolutely. So why Magic the Mushroom? I don't even know why I went there, but
Magic the Mushroom
with the dude. It says #no rules. Spirits just pop up and talk to me. I tell them to get in line. Yes, that is kind of the beginning, opening phases. There is a way to build a construct so you can get more sleep and build your own boundaries without limiting the connection and make it more real. And we actually do a lot of that in our Zenit Academy group that we're going to tell you more about at the end.
Right. Well, that brings up a good point, is what the spiritualist mediums, the structure they were building, which is what traditional spiritualist training is established now. And then there's different schools of it, and there's how we do it.
Right.
So that's the foundation. So what they were looking for back then is how to stabilize the phenomena, how to stabilize your gift, and how to create boundaries. Spiritualist tradition started when you have sisters that were in a farmhouse in New York that were experiencing physical mediumship phenomena in the house. So they started to develop systems to communicate. And so that's how spiritualism started. And after that, it became more and more formalized. So there are systems to control your mediumship. So we all have kind of an open door to it if we're sensitive, until we figure out
the foundation,
the rules, the structure, the guidelines, which is what
that works for you.
That works for you. That these sisters kind of started the most solid kind of foundation that informs.
She's talking about the Fox sisters. All right, moving on to tip number 3.
Let's talk about new school, because today mediumship circles look a lot different than they did back in the day.
Yes.
Although people still like to go and try to do traditional, it's a lot slower now compared to how we are today, because we think faster, we move faster,
Right.
we're like,
So for one thing, some ways that information was allowed to come through back then, which worked very well, okay, for the time, for the technology that they had, and it might now be pretty restrictive and actually very slow. And that's kind of what we've noticed in our group, what we've noticed in our own personal development, is that the information and the methods of gaining the information tend to be a lot slower when you use old school methods. Now, when rules become more important than the flow, so that restrictive, that construct, those rules, those guidelines can become a lot slower because we've evolved past that. Our energy has evolved past that. Our awareness, our understanding, our technology, our science, all of that has evolved past what was happening in the 1800s.
Yeah, because you have to remember, this was like more than 150 years ago when we've kind of evolved a lot. So yes, today you still see people doing the traditional mediumship circles, and that's kind of fun to play in.
But they get a little bit uptight with the old school rules.
Sometimes if you get today, you will see people even in modern development circles getting a little uptight, like they did
I have to do it this way.
And I think that just restricts things. But those that adapt find a lot more freedom and fun and flow in the work.
Right. And there is still value in doing in-person mediumship development circles, right? It isn't always necessarily viable because we just don't live in the same way that people did back in the Victorian era and the early years of the 20th century spiritualist medium development, and that's 1900s.
David, I'm noticing that David's having a hard time saying Victorian today.
Victorian.
You're just bucking against the rules, I think.
I am. It's a subconscious buck against the rules. Come on, people.
I think you need to say
Victorian England.
See, there it is. Say it with an accent. Victorian England.
Except that it's not England.
That was terrible.
New England.
Victorian was like for that whole time period.
The time period. I get it.
We all know that back in the day, the East Coast of the United States in the 1800s was
the New England.
It was New England. So they were like stuffy but light. Stuffy light. So mediumship circles can now happen online, for instance, as we are getting more connected. There is more freedom and flow that is not restricted by time or distance.
And the bonus is that you also get the opportunity for more people focusing intention on one thing in much larger virtual groups, right? So more batteries, more experiences, more energy available for everyone.
So it's interesting because for the first several years when we were teaching in person, and, you know, because this is our 11th year coming into 12 years or starting our 12th year in business, but the first several years we had workshops in person.
Right.
And because we live in a different time period, workshops can be very inconsistent. You've got different people all the time. You got people moving in and out. We live in Las Vegas, which is one of the most active, mobile, transient towns. And so we're like, this is getting kind of, it's fun, but there's got to be a better way to do it because not everybody's getting the benefit and the development that they could be if it was more consistent. Well, because you had people moving in and out of town, you had,
people living busy lives. I mean, Vegas is a 24-hour town. So you've got people that work on different schedules that can't always make the same thing at the same time. Today, when we were comparing our Zenith Academy group today, and we just posted a mediumship development activity in there, and the intensity, the accuracy, the amount of people that showed up, even at different times, created such a more intense battery than we had even in person just 10 years ago. So
and that's been a kind of a fun experiment for us to do, is to have this kind of rolling mediumship circles and less formal and experimenting with different forms of the mediumship circle, development circle, because we all are living in different parts of the globe. We're all getting all this different information. I feel like information flows a lot more quickly
and a lot more fluidly.
Yeah, so we've had fun with that. So because batteries have evolved since the 1800s,
and so has technology. So we're evolving space and time. Think about
we're getting into a different time frame where we think about our
construct
a
of
little
time
bit differently
and space are changing. So think about this. We put a post up in the morning, for example, and then over the next 48 hours, people chime in whenever it's convenient for them. And each time that they do, each time that they connect to that post, each time that they connect to that activity, they're lending energy to that battery so that the next person that shows up has all of this energy available to them.
It's kind of cool
to come in to another experience.
Right. So it's kind of been a fun experiment for us to
Right.
see like what is a viable mediumship circle that we can create for our students. And like, it's been kind of fun because people can plug into the circle and plug out whenever they want. Like lunch break, let me plug in and see what's happening.
And the energy is available there to them. It's a battery that continues charging itself.
So building on the foundation of the past, I think this is kind of what we wanted to come clear up today, because we get the question about where do I join mediumship development circles? And they're looking for traditionalist, spiritualist one. And I think it's great to have a lot of different kinds of experiences like that. And so building on the foundation of the past, we are aware of more senses and ways that information can come through now.
Not just in a little parlor that looks like your great grandma's living room.
Right.
Which is fantastic. I mean, those in-person spiritualist mediumship circles are great.
I've done them. They're fun.
Yeah, they are fun. But we find that this tends to be a lot faster and much more powerful and more fluid because it's evolved with the times.
Well, because I like to go fast. So it's like the first Jumanji board game. Like
it was on a board game at first.
And then now Jumanji, it's a video game, and now it's like all virtual.
So it's all evolving with the technology that we have at hand.
Same thing. We're evolving with the tech.
Yes. I want to say what is up to Sarah. Good to see you. Says, just found your show today. Great information. Awesome. Wonderful to have you. Wonderful. Welcome to the channel. And then Tanya says, love the mediumship training, how you have it set up. You can come and go and work when you are able to, and yet still tap into the group energy. It is so sweet.
That's so nice.
Yes. Absolutely. So we want to know, are you more excited now that you have these tips?
Have we cleared some mysteries, busted some myths, and opened up your mind?
And we want to shout out one of our Zen heads, G, who shared her experience with us on the Google machine. You know how we like to give a shout back.
I love to give the love back to you guys when you give love back to us after we give love to you. It's a love.
It's a wonderful battery. It's a love battery.
Infinite thing. So infinite battery. She says, I worked with Heather and David a couple of years ago, but the experience left a lasting impression on me for sure. They gave me a lot of keys to work with along my journey, and I am forever grateful for their wisdom and guidance at what was a really rough point in my life.
Now it's time for that offer to take your metaphysical business from basic to bodacious.
So we have learned that self-growth and developing your superpowers go together like sushi, Sapporo, and sake.
So good. And that is why we created our signature subscription membership, Zen Ed Academy, to bridge that gap. Are you ready for psychic and mediumship training that will not scare the crap out of you?
Not trying to scare you. Unless you want to be scared, then maybe
that it's Halloween.
That's Halloween.
If so, Zen Ed Academy is the Rebel Beast. Gotta love the Rebel Beast.
Zen Ed Academy is where the science of self-growth meets the magic of mysticism. Think of us like parapsychologists and mediums that like met and had a baby. That's us.
Our baby is Zen Ed Academy.
So
before we move on, I wanted to say what is up to Michelle. Good to see you. She says, first comment ever on YouTube. I just want to let you know that the Dark Night of the Soul series made my life make sense to me. Yes. Wow. It started a journey that I could never thank you enough for. Michelle, that touches my heart. Thank you.
Michelle, I'm a little verklempt.
We are absolutely touched and honored. Thank you guys. And for those of you who have not seen the Dark Night of the Soul series, go and watch that. It's an entire playlist that we've got. It's amazing. So what do you need to do to get into the Academy and become part of the revolution? You've got to click the link in the description right down there. Plus, you will be part of our Inner Revolution team with support at the ready. Unparalleled support. Boom. All of that info is down below. If you still have any questions, send us a message on Facebook or a DM on IG at Zen Rose Garden. If you like this video, hit that like button 5 times.
And if you have any questions, let us know in the comments below. That's where we get ideas for new videos and help you clear up the clutter of information that you might be inundated with.
Yes. And for more mind hacking pro tips,
be sure to subscribe
and click that bell, or it's over here, I don't know, to turn notifications on.
So you're the first to know
when we drop a new video. And we know that time is a valuable and precious resource, and the fact that you guys have chosen to spend that with us, we absolutely appreciate that. But most importantly, leveling up your skills and your resources, taking your life and your business to an absolute new level We appreciate that even more. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you in the next video.
See you in the next video.